What is up, everyone? It is Andrew Rapier here of Beta AT Production and Publishing, bringing you guys a new YouTube video. In this YouTube video, I'm going to be showing you how to make a Travis Scott type beat. Before we start the actual tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and play the whole beat. So this is the beat that we will be working on, or breaking down, or whatever. So yeah. So yeah, that was the beat. It's kind of like the Metro Boomin. You could honestly see Drake, Future, Travis Scott, all of them on it. It's very spacey, airy. Nothing too over the top. Kind of like the more ambient style Travis Scott. So I first started out with a piano, which we could see right here. This was the original piano track that I had. This is using addictive keys, and this is kind of like the chord structure on how I did it. Normally I also change around the velocity of the notes, but as you can see, I did not alter any of the velocity. So if we listen to the notes, so it's just that, and then I copy that, and then I pasted it into here, which is a piano thicker, pretty much just a pad. I want to tune that down a little bit more. Literally just like air, ambience. So if you listen in the beginning and I mute this other atmosphere pad, you hear, as opposed. So it sounds more full and such. Then I had this other atmosphere pad that I copied the melody. Now I actually thought I knocked this melody up one. Yeah. So I actually knocked this one octave higher, and it is another atmosphere sound. Or this one is an atmosphere sound, the other one was a pad. Both using Nexus. Very light, barely hear it. And then, so you can see how the intro is structured, just those two stacked together. I mean, those three. Then you come in and you hear this Omnisphere VST, which is an ARP. I'm letting it load. It takes a little bit to load. And as you can kind of see right here, it's literally just copy and paste of the original. And this is Omnisphere 2. I was using Omnisphere 1 for a very long time, but I upgraded to the Omnisphere 2. Great upgrade if you ask me. But that's besides the point. I had this sound called Electro Cinema Echo. If we listen, now if we look, I actually had a delay on there too. If we turned it off, so now if we listen, now it goes from that bridge intro into this chorus, which then I bring in this bass line. The bass line is pretty much one of my favorite bass lines sounds I use, which is in Nexus. And I added a distortion onto it, but here's what it sounds like, and the notes. I'm going to actually also have all these notes, so the score of the piano and this bass line are going to be in the upcoming MIDI and score pack for you producers that are wanting to create beats and learn what dope chords are and different other chords, and you guys can change them around. It's going to be available at beatat.com. There will be a link to the website in the description, and you see it on the video. So yeah, on there very soon in early January, we're going to have the Beta AT MIDI kit, which has a whole bunch of different scores for you guys to use. All right, but here's the bass line that I have. So when you listen to it, Now I have two kicks stacked. If we look over here, I'm gonna go into that synth real soon. But before I forget, since we're already talking about the kicks, I got two kicks. They're stacked right over here. Here's the other one. So kick, bass, drum, and kick, classics, old school. All these drums are used from our drum kits, which are also available on beat.at.com. But so here's the kick. And then here's the snare. So if we were to just play that for you guys. It's not honestly so much of a Travis Scott drum pattern, if you ask me. It's actually, excuse me, I was burping. But it kind of has that vibe more with the mix and the other sounds. If we pull up this sound over here now that I was talking about earlier, it's named synth. It's honestly just a piccolo, as you can see. And how I'm making all these melodies that are somewhat different but all going together. So you see this one, that's a different melody from that, and that's a different melody from that, and that's a different melody from the bass line, and that's a different melody from the guitar. All these are different, but they're around the same notes. Here, let me show you. So A5, A sharp, D, G. Which you know. Oh, A sharp, D. Like, you see what I mean? It's like the similar notes, but you structure them differently. So that's how you really make these sounds and melodies to go together and flow. And I'm stacking a lot of these melodies too, so they sound thicker, and it changes the sound, allowing me to get a different type of sound and for this to flow a little bit better. So I'm wanting to explain some of that to you all. So now we're into the verse. Not a whole lot has changed other than this piano, and we bring in the drums. So this piano, if we look at it, it's actually simpler than this piano because we don't have all these notes. So if we listen to it, and it's the same octave, so literally that, and we cut out also the piano thickener, and looks like we have it in the verse over here, and then the intro and outro. So it's just a little bit different. Now, we already went over the snares and kick drums. So the hi-hat, very simple, boom. What I forgot to mention is I'm working in 75 BPM. Normally, you guys see me working in 150, 140, etc., etc. That would be double time, meaning everything is twice as fast, pretty much. So I could be doing this all in 150, but then I'm gonna need and so we got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 16 bars in here. If we were working in 150, we would need 32 bars. So that's why these hi-hats sound very slow. So, not really slow, but you know what I mean. I don't know. Now, the other thing we got is this open hat. This is from the Beta-AT Drum Kit 2.0. Available at beat.at.com. If we listen to it. It's just like a cymbal hit that pans. So very simple. And we did the delay pan in the mixer. It wasn't originally like that, so if we listen to it. So that's like a synth too, a little bit different. Then it transitions and goes into this part in the verse where I bring in this 808. The 808, this is my favorite 808. It's the 808 Smooth C5, which is available in the AT School Smoke drum kit, available at beatat.com. This is my favorite drum. And then another thing that changes up, I cut out the hi-hats and I create a new piano pattern. This one, but it's actually 2 octaves higher than the original one. So that one was on 8.5 and this one is on 8.3. So that's 2 octaves higher. And what I did was then grabbed the piano and pulled a half speed. This is actually a half speed. I originally had it as a stutter, but I changed it to a half speed. So if we listen to the piano, and here's just the 808 pattern. Everything is tuned to C5, so this is perfectly tuned. So got a couple slides there, and there. If we turned off this half speed, see what I mean? Then it goes up to this verse bridge, which I bring in the guitar, bluesy guitar from Omnisphere, my favorite guitar per se to use, and I use a couple settings on it. Gross beat, half speed, a parametric EQ, a delay bank, and then a reverb. So I get this sound. Not really much changes between these 2 choruses. Actually, nothing changes. So I don't really need to discuss about that. Now we go into this other verse. I pull in this other ARP. I think. Yeah, this. I put a filter over it. Now if we listen to it right here. I'm actually going to sidechain the kick over to it real quick. I'm actually wanting to change that. So I'm sidechain it real quick. Just I actually created a different 808 pattern. I simplified it, took out a lot of the slides. So yeah, what you saw in that ARP, it's pretty much the same thing. Just copied and pasted it. But since it's an ARP and Omnisphere, it's gonna not sound like a piano. So that's why I can just copy and paste and use the same exact melody and it'll sound different. Because I'm using different sounds that pretty much have different functions. That's just a little tip for y'all. If you have an ARP and a piano and you combine it, you can get a completely different sound even though they're the same exact melodies. It's kind of like weird, but it's just the different functions, variables, and the in the VSTs. Now I also added this percussion track, which has some bongos. Then another percussion track right there. Nothing really changes, honestly. Then we come back into like the second half of the verse, which changes up. And I actually don't do the 808 here. Like in the first verse, I have the 808s come in on the second half. I actually have the 808s come in on the first half of this verse. And then I bring in the bass line, and then I actually have the drums playing. So it could almost be like the chorus, but then I have the piano there with the half speed and such. It's a little bit different. I approached it differently, and that's how it sounds somewhat interesting. I should probably add more effects like risers, crashes, etc., or voxes, but I decided to keep it simple and just do the drums, the melody, and mix. So nothing really changes, and we go on to the chorus, the third chorus. Pretty much it's the guitar is in the whole thing. I'm kind of going back and forth. I have these two different guitar tracks. So if we looked over in this verse bridge, it went like this. But in the chorus, we have that D, you see, instead of the G. So I kind of want to do this one and then goes into that one. But it doesn't really matter. Not a whole lot of differences, and I add the percussion too over here. So it's kind of like adding more stuff as it goes on, but we're not over complicating it. And a big thing you notice is I'm not using the bass line where you see the 808. So that's a big note because they are both low frequency instruments. If they were to go at the same time, they would clash with each other. And actually the 808 is based around the bass line. I made the bass line first, and that's how I normally do it. And then the 808 then gets kind of mixed in with the kick. And I do my kicks and 808s a little bit differently than others, but you know. Now, and I have the outro going right here. The outro could really be right here. Doesn't really matter. I just thought of a cool idea of just making the chorus a little bit longer, like a 12-bar chorus, and then the standard outro. So yeah, and that's pretty much how I made this beat. It's not anything too crazy. It's very mellow, ambient, and almost like an album beat. And I say an album beat because it's not a beat that you would see on a mixtape. It's definitely not a hype song. So it's more of like those very artsy, unique Travis Scott ambient beats. So yeah, that's pretty much the main premise. Oh, and kind of like a quick, I forgot, I don't want to rush through it too fast, a quick mix rundown. I kind of have, and the reason why I'm not going to focus too much on the mix is most of you guys will be using different sounds, different instruments. So for me to say use this EQ and do this and cut that doesn't really mean a whole lot, because you guys could do the same thing as it could pretty much ruin your beat. But what I can do is kind of explain why I did certain things. So if we look, I keep most of my instruments down a decent amount, unless if it's a very light instrument. And sometimes I even tune it down in here. I didn't really do it a whole lot, but sometimes I do it more so than other times. But I keep my drums usually a little bit higher, and usually the master pulls it all up. So it pulls in the instruments with it. So if I actually muted, I'll play part of the beat with the whole entire master muted so you guys could hear the difference. Now with it, everything. So my master pretty much allows it where it's actually quieter, because if we were listening to everything muted, it was peaking way up here, or going way unnecessarily high, going way past the 0 dB mark. And after I did the master, now the sound goodizer I barely fucking use, because fuck sound goodizer, it's really trash, but it's good with a minimal amount. But ultimately, I did this master that makes it quieter, but also makes it seem louder. As in, like, everything is crunched in together. And that's how I like to do my master. And obviously, I want a rapper to go on it, so I don't want a fully mastered beat in some sense. But I also want my beat to sound pretty good, or really good, you know? The mix is more essential. I don't have my bass line going too high, and I mostly have my kicks and snares above everything else, or a little above. So if we listen to it again, I have my snare just a little below my kicks, and my kicks are higher than everything else slightly. Like, you barely hear it slightly over everything. And then the hi-hats are in the background, keeping that rhythm. So yeah, that's pretty much the main essentials you need to know on doing a Travis Scott type beat. You guys can also see the structure I did. I'm using a 75 BPM. Remind you, so if you guys are using 140, 150, your chorus will actually be 4. So you just double this part. You'll double this, and then you double this, because you'll be going twice as fast. But you'd also have to adjust your chords and all that other stuff. So yeah, hopefully this helped you guys. If you liked it, give us a like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Andrew Rapier here of Beta AT Production and Publishing, and I'll see you guys all later.